All right, here we are. Let's go in and make sure that we are all rocking and rolling over here from a stream perspective. Sure seems like we are. So let me just take a few moments here to make sure, and then we can go ahead and start talking about this truck series race, which sure does look like everything is going cool. Yeah, everything is rocking and rolling. Oops. All right, so multiple things going on today for this slate here. One, this is obviously one of the earliest NASCAR slates of the year. Obviously, I'm live, during a Friday when most people are working on a Friday. So that's the first point. Second off, I think now we have quite a lot of things to go over really fast. Mainly, I mean, this race is 72 laps, if I'm not mistaken here. Let me just double check really fast because that's what I've been rocking and rolling with in my head. And the NASCAR website is down. Yeah, it's 72 laps. Okay, so like the first major thing here was, first off, let's look and try and figure out what type of slate this is just from the salary perspective. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys above 10K. It doesn't matter who they are, okay? Just the fact that we have 10 guys in the 10K range. And then at that point, we have several guys at the bottom of the salary who are in bad cars with no name drivers like that are not in play, right? We have Derek White, William, Tony, uh, Glenn, and Wesley. Okay, so we know right off the bat when we're looking at the MBM car, when we're looking at the Reum trucks, we're seeing that the bottom of the salary outside of certain drivers are like not going to be useful, right? So if anybody's using somebody from the 5K range from a build perspective, it's just not viable. Like there's no upside for these drivers. Okay, so right off the bat, we understand that salary is probably going to be extremely tight, and I got to. Un momento. Hold on. I gotta get a drink of water. Setup is really nice until I gotta get water at my desk way over there. Um, we're we're not playing guys in the bottom, even though we're probably gonna need a really, really tight type of day on salary. Now, we have been thrown into a situation to where we have drivers who are one mispriced because anytime you get cup guys in the field, they automatically jump ahead on the salary just because they're cup guys in the field. And so you have truck regulars who are priced lower than what they should be if cup guys weren't in the race, right? You know, people like Gray, Ankrum, Ty Majeski, Enfinger. We also have Caden Honeycutt, who signs a new team and is kicked out of Nice, right? Like they're just like, okay, you're not with Chevy anymore, since you're going to Tricon most likely, or a Ford or Dodge team, who knows, whatever. He's out to lunch in the O2 car. Like that car is not going to get him a finish worth anything at all, regardless of where he started, right? So we're losing guys on the bottom of the salary that aren't playable. We're losing Caden Honeycutt from being a playable guy in general, due to the car that he's in. And then we also have the salary being bumped down by these guys up here. So we then get a situation where we have several guys going to the back of the field are not taking Q laps due to a multitude of reasons: broken axles, fuel pump issues, whatever. Okay. We then also have the Spire guys who apparently just don't know how to flush brake lines. That's kind of ridiculous that both Raja and Kyle Busch are running the brake uh, pedal issues just because there's air in the line. Like any guy worth their salt, you have all week to bleed some brake lines like that. That's kind of unacceptable. But who is calling me right now? Do I answer my partner and say I'm busy? Give me a moment. Hold on. My partner is going to check out one of the houses that we are potentially getting. So that's cool. That sounds sarcastic. That's not cool. I just thinking of a lot regarding that. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. So several guys who are going to the rear due to issues. We have the two Spire car, or at least the guys that matter, Raja and Kyle Busch with question marks around their vehicles, right? We then also have, Connor Zilich, literally the best guy in the field in a Nice car, which is no, you know, we're not purposely trying to throw shade to Nice, but like we've seen what Caden's been able to do. Caden's been able to get everything out of that car. I don't know if their equipment is going to be able to truly help Connor here. Okay, now I would still expect Connor to finish top 5, but we lose the raw speed that we see from Connor because he's usually in the best car and the best equipment in any in any car that he's in, right? So we have that, and then we have our starting grid, which has tons of chalk in the back of the field. Which yet again we're at 72 laps with a full 36 field. Okay, now normally we have a lower amount of cars in these fields. Sometimes we're not at a full field and stuff like that. So the fact that we have a full 36 cars and we then have Infinger at 74, which we can all agree is a discount price due to the fact that we have 610K guys. Ty Majeski at 92, practically at 9,000. I mean, realistically, obviously, at 9, he needs 45 to hit value. Here is what, 46, 47. Infinger and Majeski, I would envision to be played a ton. Also, we don't have projections yet. At least, let me fix that. SaberSim doesn't have their ownership up yet. Yet again, this is a situation where we're dealing with a Friday afternoon, early start. Not everybody is, firing all cylinders. People are at work. Okay, so we do have ownership, which we'll look at that in a minute. Because we didn't before I started this. And so a lot of things are working, last minute. We're only 2 hours from block. A lot of these contests will end up filling up well before the start of the race, since the start is at 5:20 Eastern time. And so when we're looking at Infinger and Majeski, I think regardless, I don't think we even need to worry about what they're doing in practice in terms of their practice speed. Obviously, Grant Infinger blew or broken axle. We have Ty Majeski making unapproved adjustments and not being able to get qualifying lap. But I'm perfectly happy playing both of these guys at their respective price tags, due to the fact that we have so many expensive guys that we potentially have to fit into our lineup. Okay, Corey Hyman Bell. Now I think the Tricon cars that Corey Hyman's in, even though what is it? Even though Friesen is in a Toyota, or I guess Friesen isn't, Bell is rather. I will take the Tricon stuff over what any other team is having with any other guy dropping in and doing whatever they're doing. Same thing with Busher in the 66 for Thorsport. Okay, you heard a lot of complaint over the radio of Bell is fighting a tight loose condition. Busher's bottoming out. Obviously, Kyle Busch having his braking issues and stuff. Corey Heim was the only one who wasn't making any fit or commotion at all. Connor Zilich is also saying he's bottoming out because hey, man, you're in a Nice car. Like, it's not the Hendrick cars, right? So, head to head, I like Corey Heim over Christopher Bell in the Stuart Friesen machine. Okay. But when we look at the rest of this grid, Andres, Giovanti, Lane Riggs, Chastain, Smith, and Kyle Busch, Connor Zilich, Ankrum, that's where we start getting into the real people that I think are actually going to do something in this race. I don't really see a reason why to play Sammy Smith, Andre, Giovanni, and stuff. I just don't see the reason to do that. Not only are we not really in their price ranges a lot, I just think they're kind of dead on arrival from a finishing perspective. Okay. We also run into a situation to where, yet again, since everybody is so underpriced because we're having so many expensive guys jump in here, Tanner Gray at 63, William Sawash at 66, Hemrick, Kligerman, and Cruz, all substantially underpriced from where they should be. So how am I approaching this race? What am I doing? Now, normally at road courses, we typically, outside of, obvious chalk or whatever, somebody starting dead last, we usually want to, obviously play guys who are going to finish up front. And typically that is people who are starting in the top half of the field. When we look at both Truck and Xfinity at road courses, whether it was Lime Rock, Sonoma, we typically play, a lot of people from the top half of the field because it's so difficult for people to get through the field and hit a a DK point range that borders on being viable. Okay, typically we're looking around 44 to 43 and stuff like that to be a top 7 scorer. But due to the pricing that we have from a lot of these drivers, and due to really, once we've gone through all the people who are viable and not viable, really outside of the slow guys in the backfield, which we're like not playing realistically. There's just no way on earth William, Wesley, Derek, Frankie, Caden, Glenn. There's no way they even really do anything to pop themselves into the top, 24, right? Potentially Caden, but even still, I have my reserves on how he's going to perform in this O2 car, So that leaves the back of the field, outside of the chalk, very much unplayable for me. Since a lot of these guys are priced up and stuff, and we're not playing at least in my opinion, Samuel Smith, Andres, Giovanni, a lot of people in this range here, this leans towards a race to where obviously Ty Majeski makes a lot of sense. Obviously Enfinger makes a lot of sense. They are going to be teetering on being viable nearly, at least for Enfinger at his price tag, probably 70% of the time, and Majeski probably 55 to 60% of the time, which should correlate close to what their ownership should be. But outside of that, we're going to have a lot of guys in the 8K range, especially if we're paying up for, regardless if you're paying up for Heim or Bell, we're just throwing in the 10K guy there. Whoever you're paying up for starting up front, we're left in the very heavy 8K range today. Okay, and so when I'm looking at projections, when I'm looking at where to potentially go, I don't think you can realistically play Kyle Busch with the issues that he's having, with the issues that we've seen just in the Spire trucks, and with what we have seen as of late, the last 2 years of Kyle Busch being in these races, especially since he sold KBM to Spire. Kyle Busch really hasn't been that viable. Okay, obviously he won the race at Atlanta, but when we're looking at how he's performing in these Truck Series races as a whole, you're really not there. So obviously from 10-6 up, I think Heim's the only one worth playing. Now Chris Buescher, yet again, he's in a 66 car, he's in the Thor Sport car. How much higher do we expect him to carry that car? I'm not saying Chris Buescher's a bad road course racer, because he's not, obviously. But when I look at, when I envision of where Buescher is going to end up finishing today, I think that's probably right around like anywhere from 13th to 7th. Okay, him and his price tag, yet again, he's 10. He's 10-3. I got him right at 41 points today. Potentially closer to 45, 46, but I'm not wanting to get a high amount of Buescher. Like, these aren't the play. Just because we have guys, we have Majeski at 9-2, Brett Cruz, Enfinger at much, much, much lower salaries, who you would also consider as a place differential play. I just don't know why you would take that unnecessary direction of paying a 10-3 place differential play, in a Thor Sport car and stuff like that. So, as we continue on, like, I think the pool is actually pretty small today. This isn't, now I haven't thrown in all my lineups yet, right? But when I'm looking at where we're at here, I don't know if the Nice truck stay. I mean, how many times has Ross Chastain been in a Nice truck? Okay, at road courses, and they break, and he runs into issues. Like, I would absolutely, obviously the market doesn't exist, but I would be putting any amount of money I could on a mechanical failure DNF from Connor Zillage, from a mechanical failure DNF from Chris Buescher, just by how aggressive that these guys drive. I mean, anytime Chastain is in a Nice truck, he's breaking stuff too, and yet again he's in a Nice truck today. When we look at, hell, I'll bring that up right quick so we can see how many times Chastain has ran into issues in a niche truck. Let me go here. Give me a moment. Let me load. Let me see. Come on. All right. So when we're looking at little Ross Chastain, right? Let's just look at the last 2 years of his truck races because these have been in Nice equipment, right? So, and I mean, it doesn't matter what track it is. We're just looking at this in general. Okay, are we seeing a huge amount of speed here, reliability here, or are we seeing really much here? Now he hasn't ran he ran Coda earlier this year, last year rather, but yet again hasn't been. He doesn't have the Chastain speed that we see in the Cup Series because this is obviously lesser equipment. Even when you start going farther back of where he was at when he was winning more races in Cup on the road course specifically, and then running Nice equipment, like I'm not very excited about Connor Zilic being in this car. I'm not excited about Rush Stamen in this car. So when we're looking at guys that I'm probably not going to play, you know, I don't really see a need to play any of these guys outside of Corey Heim. I mean, this is yet again I'm on here talking about how I'm going to approach stuff. I'm paid to go live and make projections and talk about the builds that I want to do. And this, or at least these are, this is the type of stuff that I'm looking at here. When we're also looking at the bottom here, I'm not willing to play. I'll keep Tony, Hill and Boyd in there because yet again I haven't built lineups yet, so I don't know what type of constraints we're necessarily working in and stuff. But yet again, we look at this player pool. Let's get Caden out of here as well because I'm highly concerned about the O2 car. I mean, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. I mean, a lot of these guys can be considered as 1, 2, so, you go from 22 to 16 realistic plays. We haven't even looked at projections yet. This is just the, salary pool that I'm working with here. That's how I'd go about it. Because of that, I think there's quite a now. I mean, let's go see what SaberSim has. Now, obviously, you can see what I have projected on here. Obviously, if you want access to SaberSim, my projections, any of the projections that we use here at TrueDFS, whether it be my stuff, Sheets of stuff, Goldie stuff. Football is here. Obviously, we're going to have Rhodey's playbook up during the NFL season. Bobby Fye, who yet again won $1 million last year. We have a millionaire maker on the site. My boss, on top of that, you get access to SaberSim on any of our packages, plus the pay dirt analytics stuff, which yet again is going to have or already has MLB, NHL, NFL projections and stuff. Like, why would you not join our site with the amount of value that we have here? Anyway, long story short, if you want our projections or whatever, you can join. You can do that. What I'm curious about is what SaberSim is going to project for, because obviously I made all my opinion. This is the first time I'm seeing all this stuff. Okay. And I have my opinion on how I want to go about this. And so what are the potential differences that SaberSim and I have? Now, yet again, this situation to where if you watched me and Sheets talk about this last week, we had, what I think is a pretty decent discussion about how people use this tool specifically. And when we're looking at a Friday like this, where lock is 2 hours away in the deep of the Friday workflow and stuff, a lot of people I think are just going to run stuff on here without making many adjustments. Maybe they didn't watch qualifying, maybe they didn't watch practice. It's a work day, right? You're trying to get your stuff in fast and take off. They have Connor Zilic and Busher as the highest owned drivers. I'm not here to debate whether that's true or false or whatever. I'm just giving an example of potentially situations where we're different. Okay, now yet again, past that, they have ownership pretty flat across the board. I kind of agree with that more. That ownership should be kind of spread out evenly. I still think it's more towards Enfinger and Majeski, but still, they're pushing Connor Zilic very heavily, right? They're pushing Busher very heavily. I'm personally not, okay? So I think that's one area that I'm getting different from, that I'm building different with, whatever, right? Yet again, long story short, like part 4 or whatever. I typically like situations like this to where you have not only variables in the race, and also, I mean, we don't have a lot of laps in this race. So fast laps and lap lead points are very, very small. We're going to lose at least, God knows, at least 16 laps to yellows, if not more. Okay, we're going to lose at least 4 per stage, right? And then, yellows, whatever. And so the raw finishing position of people is what's going to be important. Okay, so we lower the variables of what's going into the slate from a DK perspective. Less things you have to simulate, less things you have to project for. Okay, we're just basing on where people should finish. Okay, so there's less variables in the projection and in the actual race itself, but there's more variables around people playing this slate. Okay, yet again, Friday, people getting home from traffic. I mean, this is launching right at 5 o'clock traffic on the eastern or on the East Coast. If you're like me in Houston or wherever else or whatever, it's right at like 4, 3. You're farther west. This is like fucking noon, 2 o'clock, right, on a Friday. People are busy. People are not going to be able to dive in and spend as much time as they normally are on these slates. Okay, smaller contest. 5's only 1,400. 4 is 29. The 10 is 7,000 people. I think you can very easily get different with what we're doing on a build perspective and stuff. So even though I have, or what I think is going to be a pretty small player pool, I think you can get different fairly easy with a combination of how people are going to be building lineups today, with how small the contests are, and for me personally, just how drastically different I'm going from the field. I'm not too concerned about what is it? I'm not too concerned about duplications and stuff. Let's see. You say Bell loved his car, and not saying that's not true. Obviously, he's second fastest, but he was not very happy during the practice session. Now, I mean, we can look at Bell specifically against Corey Heim. Yet again, I don't really care about the first part. Obviously, not happy, makes adjustment, goes back out, running 120. So what is this average looking like here? We'll use, we won't use the 119. We won't use the 105 here. Look at an average of 120.32. 120.32. Oops. Whoa. 120.32 puts him right in line with where these guys are at the top of the charts. We look at Corey Heim on a baseline comparison here. Obviously, this is, Christopher goes out, see what he has. They go in and make an adjustment, starts running 120s and stuff. Yet again, this is on old tires, whatever, right? Whereas we look at Corey Heim, solidly in the 120s. Again, this is average mile per hour in time. I mean, he barely hits 120 on his 11th, his 13th lap. Whereas, like, at least, I would argue Mozak is running slightly faster than Bell once they made adjustments and stuff. I like Corey Heim today, but yet again, I think they're identical plays from a win perspective, whatever. We also have to, or not remember, but I think this changes how some of the fast people are going to end up playing. And what I mean by that is people who are going to have a high average running position, since we have so many people in this race here who aren't competing for points. You have Connor Zilic, Kyle Busch, Bell, Sammy Smith, Chastain, Busher, and William Sawalich, right? On top of all the other no-name guys in the back of the field. Those 7 drivers are not given a flying fuck about stage points or stage wins or anything like that. I would imagine that if Corey Heim is going to compete for this win today, which I just can't imagine he's going to throw away a win chasing a stupid playoff point with how many that he already has, he has to short pit before those other 7 guys short pit because they're not pitting. I mean, they're pitting before the stages are over. Okay. So I'm perfectly happy with playing Corey Heim, and I'm also happy yet again with how expensive everything is. I am going to have lineups that are not playing anybody in the top 5 at all, and just playing place differential plays from like 7th to like 22nd and stuff, including Infinger and Majeski and stuff. So that's where I'm at. Now look, you're bringing up Friesen being injured, but we are also forgetting that we legit have dead crew member Juju back for Parker Kligerman, okay? Mr. Old Man Henderson, fell down a porch or whatever and passed away, okay? The Truck Series is going through turmoil right now. We got Keith McGee not in the new NASCAR game. We got Stuart Friesen just hitting an open wall, not even close, right? No, look, when I race, also, one thing that is a lot of asterisks in my life of like to do this, dominoes will fall and stuff. My girlfriend, who's going to be my fiance pretty soon and stuff, or my partner rather. I want to ride a bull, and people that can very easily get me like not like at a buck off whatever on a weekend. I want to ride in a real competition setting, just to have the stupid people who are like, why do you root for the crashes? Why do you root for the bull? Just to have those people shut up. If I like, hopefully the bull just crushes my head in, so I don't have to think about anything anymore. But I want to do that just so I can, point that out whenever I'm saying that I'm rooting for crashes and stuff like that. So me talking about Friesen is not being funny. If it was me, whatever, I hope I get injured. I hope I wreck, whatever. I'm going to put on a show, right? But Friesen hit an open back straightaway wall with a tire, like well off the groove. I don't know what the fuck he's doing, like 35 feet off the fucking racing groove, right? Like, and then he got hit by a like that was an awesome crash, man. That was an awesome crash. How often do you have somebody hit like the end of a wall at full speed? Like that was crazy cool. But yeah, Kligerman's race with dead crew member Juju. I mean, there's so many injured and dead people involved in this, and people who've been defeated by the system in this race. I think it kind of cancels it all out. I don't know. So we'll see what happens here with Bell and Kligerman and stuff. But that 10-6 is going to be rough. I personally don't know if anybody leads over like 27 laps in this race. There is a potential that if Corey doesn't lead, we have quite a lot of lap leaders potentially flip-flopping, especially if we get restarts at the end or just flip-flopping based on pit strategy and stuff. So I think the range from 12th to 21st and stuff are going to have quite a lot of these guys fighting to be optimal. I really like Enfinger. I really like Majeski. I don't know if I'm going to go 100% on them, but I'm going to have quite a lot of those guys. I mean, they're by far the safest plays at a pretty substantial discount to what they should be at. Yeah, past that, I can't think of anything else to say. Yet again, my projections are up. Early slate time. I don't know. Yeah, whatever. Oh yeah. Anyway, the bull. I got a stipulation from the part. I have to propose first, and then it's free reign to get help from their family to ride a bull. So probably not going to be this October. Hopefully next year I get to do that. Then everybody can root for the bull and stuff. Let's see what else. I think that's about it. I think we talked about everything. Like I said, I'm not worried about duplications. Not really worried about ownership. I think due to everything around, I think this is the slate. if you are considering having whatever amount, or not whatever amount, but if you're considering a race of the 3 races this weekend to put most entries into or most time into, I think today is that of the next 2 days. So I think that's what I'm going to try and do here. Past that, I will see you guys later. Best of luck. In 2 hours from now, Sheets will be going live to talk about the MLB slate. So yeah, see you guys later. Best of luck. Bye bye. See ya.